Hello, hello, hello. I'm coming on today to talk about the journey of our, I was going to say evolution, the journey of our experience as a human from the blissful beauty as a baby through our early years, age 2, age 5, age 7, into teenage and adulthood and midlife. And then if we come across a conversation about awakening and enlightenment, how we then begin a very different journey. And sometimes that can happen naturally without us even actively doing anything. But for some of us, as it was for me, it was an active, conscious exploration. And yeah, and so therefore the experience that we return to through that. And I'm going to do this with some magic of my hands. So this came from a client conversation recently where we were talking about just that discomfort when we're attached to something, when we're attached to a certain outcome, when we're attached to an idea of how we have to be a certain way in order to be okay, and the discomfort that comes with that. So yeah, so it's kind of serving two purposes, this video, because I'll share the kind of overall journey, but then it will also bring to light why it feels bad when we identify or attach to something which isn't fundamentally who we are, and how perfect that is as well. Actually, there's nothing wrong with that happening. It is perfectly designed. So let's begin with, let's say this hand is our beingness, our essence, spirit, universal mind, universal consciousness, awareness, whatever word works for you. That's what this represents. Formless, that's another option. That which is prior to, before, beyond content and matter. And then this represents the character of you, the idea of you, the really the collection of beliefs that I'm this kind of person and I like this kind of stuff, and I do these kinds of things in these ways. And as long as I do all that stuff and have all those preferences and stick to them and behave in these ways that get me praise and inclusion and love, or seem to, then I'll be okay. This is all that collection of beliefs. So it actually looks a lot more solid than it really is. It's not as solid as a hand. It's oh God, who knows what? Who's ever seen a belief or a thought? Whatever those are made of, that's what this hand is made of. So so what happens in our experience is we begin as pure beingness. When we look at a baby, when we see the just pure love and light and delight and ease, and of course they cry, but there's a purity, there's such a purity and an innocence, that pure beingness that moves from eating to sleeping to pooping to crying to laughing to whatever is the next thing. It's just moving easily from one to the next. It's that pure beingness. And then really early on, obviously, we start getting taught, oh, you're Bob. So this beingness starts to collect this idea of being Bob. And then it starts to collect the idea of you're Bob who likes such and such and doesn't like such and such. And you're Bob who is good and approved of when you do this, and you're Bob who's not approved of when you do that. And so all these stories keep getting repeated over and over again around the beingness that's been called Bob by us humans. And so over time, Bob forgets. It's a really weird name for a baby, isn't it? Bob's always the first name that comes to mind. So over time, Bob forgets his nature of beingness, and he gradually starts to identify and attach with all these stories and beliefs and ideas that have been told to him, around him, associated with him. And so this process begins really from, as I say, from the beginning, but it's really starts to have an effect around age 2, which is when and it's well researched in including normal psychology, that it's around 2 when the idea of a self starts to appear. So the idea of being a separate self begins to become really cemented around age 2. And then all that happens is this belief collection grows and grows and grows. Just all sorts of other beliefs get attached and included. Psychology would say that happens particularly for boys up to the age of 7 and girls up to the age of 5. That's when most of the stories are, the beliefs are gathered and attached to and identified with. And then there's kind of adjustments and tweaks made to the story up until the age of 18, and then it kind of gets a bit set again. So anyway, the key thing is that this beingness, this expression of beingness that was a human body that we chose to call Bob, gradually forgets itself and starts to become identified with all the labels and beliefs and stories that have been associated with that body mind. And mostly it goes okay. So what happens for Bob and for all of us is we spend our life sometimes being in identification with those stories and sometimes not. So we spend our life going in and out of identification, feeling good, or not feeling good, not feeling good. But we don't realize that the feeling good is us being ourselves, and the not feeling good is us believing we're a separate body, mind, and a separate self. Because we're taught, oh, that feeling good's happening because you got good grades, because you put your knife and fork together nicely, because you earned that money, because you got that promotion, because you found the perfect partner. We're taught that the good feeling is because of all that external stuff. But no, the good feeling is just the absence of identification with all the stories, of which the fundamental one is me, the belief that I'm a me, the belief that I'm a person. And that's equally the only thing that's ever made us feel bad, is the belief in being a me, the belief in being a separate self. So we've gone through our life doing this, identifying, disidentifying, but never being told why we feel good and why we don't feel good, until we come to this kind of exploration. And then that starts to remind us of this. There's that knowing deep inside us that remembers and hears, oh yeah, I'm not this body, I'm not this character, I'm not this identity, I'm not this collection of thoughts and beliefs, I'm not this concept or idea. How could I be? I'm this beingness, I'm this freedom, I'm this presence, I'm this space that allows and knows all of these thoughts and beliefs and ideas and concepts. And so when we hear that, this beingness in us starts to wake up again. And so bit by bit, we get pointed towards the fact of this feeling good is us being ourself, absent of belief, absent of believing the thoughts. And that this is us forgetting who we are, believing we are the thoughts, we are the concepts, we are the stories, and the character traits and the capabilities and the preferences. We start to be taught and reminded, reminded more than taught, we start to be reminded of what is actually going on with this experience. And so what that does is start to shift our experience back from being primarily attached and identified and being focused on what looks terrible and how it all looks bad, which is the primary story that gets collected here and gets pointed to here. We return to recognizing the beingness of ourself, our essential nature. And so bit by bit, this identification and attachment stops making sense, because we increasingly see that it's not the world that's a problem. It's not those other people that are a problem. It's not even me that's a problem. There is no me. All the problems come from being in this state. The minute we're in that state, something looks like a problem. The minute we're here, there's just something to do. And so as we shift and as we get pointed back towards this truth, we as I say, we hang out more and more and more in this beingness. And that means that when we attach and identify again, the contraction of that feels horrible, and the ickiness of it, and the discomfort of it, and the just the feeling of problem, the feeling of stress, of pressure, of issue, of not okay, it starts to become the sign, the wake-up call that I've forgotten who I am. Now, we can't always catch it. We've hung out like this for so long that we can't always catch it for ourselves, because these stories, beliefs, ideas, concepts have been so well practiced that we just can't always spot them. So it helps when we get to the core of it, that there's a me. It really helps to get to that core me who doesn't actually exist other than in thought. But all these surrounding beliefs can still hang around a bit. And so it's really useful to have somebody else who can help us recognize when identification and attachment is happening, because then it reminds us of who we are. And it reminds us that what we're attaching to or identifying with is not who we are, and also is not true. Not true as in permanent, constant, consistent, reliable. You are true. You are permanent, consistent, reliable. All the stuff in the content, all the beliefs, all the thoughts, all the concepts, the ideas, they're not truths. They come and go. They are changeable. They have a myriad of different beliefs or opinions that others have about them. What I believe, you can believe the opposite. There's no truth to any of this. And so the more and more we see that, the more we return to this beingness being our primary, the beingness being who we know ourselves to be. And these beliefs and thoughts and ideas and concepts don't have to be thrown away. We can't exist or navigate this world without them. They just return to their rightful place as secondary, which we can pick and choose from to engage with and use and talk to others about or bring into action. But it's rightful place now, rather than I am them and I must maintain them and keep living by them. The reminder is that no, you are this free, spacious, open capacity for all experience. And these thoughts, beliefs, ideas are entirely secondary to that. Totally amazing then how we use them appropriately. We use them responsibly and in right for the moment. They come to the fore in the right way for the moment. And that's the healthy space to live as. That's what we're all looking for. That's what we've all been looking for all our lives, is to know who we really are, to be awake, and to be enlightened of all the beliefs and thoughts and stories that we had previously been attached and identified with. This is what we all want. Beingness primary, thoughts, concepts, ideas, all secondary. So tell me what you think. Tell me what's resonating in that and what you're hearing. Is there something different than what you've heard before, or is it sounding different? Is it coming across different? Is there something landing that perhaps hasn't landed in the past? Or is it equally not making sense? Is there something that you want to ask about that you don't understand in what I've said, or that you just think is complete nonsense? It's all very welcome, and I would love to hear your thoughts. Much love.